Yaa Asantewaa. The room is too quiet. Not peaceful, not calm, heavy. You stand inside the court of the Ashanti Empire, where the air feels thick with something no one wants to say out loud, because something is missing. Not a person, not just a king. Power, the kind that holds a nation together. The British have already begun pressing in. Not loudly, not all at once. Slow, measured, the way outsiders take something without making it look like they're taking it. They've exiled leaders, disrupted authority, pulled at the threads that keep everything stable, and now they're asking for something they should never have asked for. The golden stool. Not a throne, not a seat, a symbol of the Ashanti soul. The thing that isn't owned by a king, but held for the people. And in this room, men who should speak, don't. You can feel it, the hesitation, the fear of what comes next, the weight of an empire that looks stronger than anything they've ever faced. Because this isn't a local rival, this is the British Empire, and the room knows it. So they sit, quiet, thinking, waiting, hoping. Maybe this moment will pass if no one moves. And then she stands. Not dramatically, not loudly. But the room shifts anyway. Because when Yaa Asantewaa rises, something changes. You can feel it before she even speaks. This isn't hesitation, this is decision. She looks around the room, at men who have led, men who have fought, men who should already be standing, and aren't. And when she speaks, it's not soft, it cuts. Because she doesn't ask what they should do. She asks why they haven't already done it. You can almost feel the words land. If the men will not fight, then the women will. And just like that, the silence breaks, not into chaos, into something sharper. Because this isn't just anger, it's clarity, the kind that doesn't leave room for doubt. Because the British didn't just ask for land, they didn't just take control, they asked for something sacred. And that changes everything. You can feel the shift in the room. Men straightening, eyes lifting, the weight of fear starting to crack. Because courage, sometimes it doesn't come from strength, it comes from being called out. And Yaa Asantewaa, she doesn't just call them out, she steps forward, not behind them, not beside them, at the front. Because if this is going to happen, she's not waiting for permission. And just like that, the decision is made. Not quietly, not carefully, but completely. They will fight. Not because it's easy, not because it's likely, because it's necessary. And at the center of it, a woman no one expected to lead this moment, but the only one willing to. Right at the moment where words turn into action. Because next, she doesn't just speak for her people, she leads them into war. And once a decision like that is made, it doesn't stay in the room, it moves. You feel it in the ground first, feet where there were none before, voices where there was silence, a rhythm building, steady, undeniable. Because when Yaa Asantewaa steps forward, people don't just listen, they rise. Messages travel from village to village, not written, not announced, carried, through stories, through urgency, through something deeper than command, purpose. You see it in the way the people gather, farmers, warriors, mothers, young men who have never seen a battle, standing together like they already understand what this means. Because this isn't just war, it's defense, of land, of identity, of something that cannot be replaced. And at the center of it, preparation, not rushed, not chaotic, focused. Weapons are gathered, defenses reinforced, paths studied like they already know how this will unfold. Because they're not walking into this blind. They know the British. They know the way they move, the way they take, the way they expect people to fold when pressure builds. But this time, that expectation is wrong. You see it in the way the land itself becomes part of the plan. Dense forests that hide movement, narrow paths that slow armies, terrain that doesn't belong to the outsiders trying to control it, because this isn't their ground, and that matters. Meanwhile, the British Empire begins to respond. At first, it's measured, controlled, because they don't believe this will grow into something serious. They've seen resistance before, they've crushed it before, and they expect to do it again. But they don't see what's different. This isn't scattered, this isn't unorganized, this is led. And leadership changes everything. You feel it in the way Yaa Asantewaa moves among her people, not above them, with them, speaking, directing, standing where she can be seen, not as a symbol, as a force. Because she's not asking them to fight, she's showing them how. And slowly, what the British thought was a small disturbance becomes something harder to ignore. Encampments grow, defenses strengthen, movement becomes coordinated, and then the first real confrontation happens. Not a warning, not a test, a stand. Ashanti forces hold their ground, not retreating, not bending, and for the first time, the British hesitate. Because this doesn't feel like the fights they've had before. This feels different, stronger. And at the center of it, still, Yaa Asantewaa. Not stepping back, not waiting for others to lead, holding the line and pushing it forward. Because now, this is no longer about preparing for war. This is war, and it's already begun. Right as the first clash proves something dangerous, this isn't going to be easy to stop. Because next, the British realize what they're actually facing, and they come back harder. And when they come back, it's different. Not cautious, not curious, decisive. Because now the British Empire understands something it didn't before. This isn't a disturbance, it's a war. You feel it in the way everything shifts, the sound of marching that doesn't stop, the weight of weapons brought with intention, the kind of movement that says, this ends now. They advance with structure, with discipline, with the confidence of an empire that has crushed resistance before. And this time, they don't plan to hesitate. But what they meet isn't what they expect. Because the Ashanti aren't scattered, they aren't running, they aren't waiting to be overwhelmed, they're ready. You see it in the defenses already in place, in the way the land itself slows the advance, in the way every path forward feels watched. Because this is not foreign ground to them. This is home, and home fights differently. At the center of it all, Yaa Asantewaa, still standing, still leading. You can feel her presence in every movement, not chaotic, not reactive, intentional. She doesn't waste force, doesn't rush forward without reason. She holds, and holding becomes power. The first major clashes hit hard. The British push forward and are met with resistance that doesn't break. Gunfire echoes through the forest. Movement collides with movement. Momentum meets something solid and stalls. Because this isn't the quick victory they expected. It's resistance that adapts, that learns, that pushes back. You see it in the way Ashanti forces disappear into the land only to strike again. In the way progress becomes slow, costly, because every step forward is earned. And for the first time, you see it. The shift. Not in the Ashanti, in the British. Doubt. Small at first, barely visible, but there. Because this is taking longer, costing more, resisting harder than it should. And at the center of it, a woman they never planned for. Because leadership like hers wasn't part of their expectation. And expectation, that's where empires get comfortable. Too comfortable. But comfort doesn't last here. The fighting intensifies. Pressure builds. Both sides push harder, because neither side is stepping back. But war, even when you're strong, it takes something. You begin to feel it in the rhythm, the weight of sustained resistance, the cost of holding ground again, and again, and again. Because endurance is a different kind of battle. And this one, it stretches, longer than expected, harder than planned. But still, she stands, still leading, still refusing to give ground easily. Because this was never about ease, it was about refusal. Refusal to bow, refusal to give up something that was never meant to be taken. And that's what makes this different. Because even as the empire pushes, even as the fight becomes heavier, they are not facing submission. They are facing resistance that will not disappear. And that kind of resistance, it changes the outcome, even if it doesn't end the way they want. Because now, this isn't just a fight for land. It's a statement that even an empire can be challenged, that even power can be pushed back. And that doesn't disappear, no matter how the battle ends. Right in the middle of a war that refuses to be easy, because next, the cost rises, and the fight becomes something even heavier, but no less powerful. And when the cost rises, you feel it everywhere. Not just in the fighting, not just in the ground that's been held, lost, taken back again. In the people. Because war like this, it doesn't stay clean. Supplies thin, movement slows. The weight of holding a line for too long starts to press down on everything. And the British Empire, it doesn't ease up. It adapts. More troops, more pressure, more force applied exactly where it hurts the most. Because now, they understand what they're dealing with, and they're not making the same mistake twice. You feel the shift in the rhythm of the war, where once there was momentum, now there's strain. Where there was rapid movement, now every step forward costs more than it did before. And still, at the center of it, Yaa Asantewaa, unmoved. You see it in the way she stands even now, not pretending it's easy, not ignoring what it's taking, but refusing to step back. Because stepping back would mean something worse than loss. It would mean surrender. And that was never an option. So she holds, through the pressure, through the exhaustion, through the slow realization that this fight isn't going to end the way it began. You can feel it in the final stretches, not panic, not collapse, clarity, because she sees it, understands it, that the empire's weight, given enough time, will keep pressing, will keep advancing, will keep taking ground. But here's the part that doesn't change. She doesn't break. Even as the British close in, even as the defenses thin, even as the fight becomes something harder to hold, she remains exactly what she has been from the start, unyielding. Because this was never just about winning. It was about standing, about refusing, about showing that power, even when it looks absolute, can be challenged. And that matters. Because when the final moment comes, when the last ground is taken, when the war reaches its end, they don't capture silence, they capture resistance. They capture a woman who did what many thought couldn't be done, who stood at the front of a war against an empire and led it, even knowing the cost, even knowing how heavy it would become. And when it's over, when the land quiets again, something is different. Not the outcome, the impact, because the story doesn't end where the battle does. It moves, through memory, through people, through the idea that what she did was possible. Because after her, after this, no one can say it can't be done. That resistance is impossible. That power can't be challenged. She proved otherwise. So we leave her here, not in defeat, not in loss, but in strength. A woman who stood when it mattered and changed what people believed could be done. If this story stayed with you, if you felt what it means to stand your ground, even when the cost is high, don't stop here. There are more women like her, women who didn't just exist in history, they stood up to it. Subscribe and come back for the next chapter. Next time, we step into something different again. Not rebellion, but a woman who ruled through strategy, survival, and calculated power inside a world built against her. Stay dangerous, stay loud, and never let them hold the pen.